This episode is brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com, the #1 seller of games and gaming accessories. And GatheringMagic.com, the #1 resource for Magic the Gathering news and articles.
Hello and welcome to a special edition of CMDR Decks. Today we have an exclusive preview for an upcoming card from the Theros set, dropping just weeks from now, courtesy of Cool Stuff Inc. and GatheringMagic.com. This is a dual preview. That means I will be focusing primarily on the commander uses for this card, and then you can go and check the article out with my friends Jules Robbins and Carlos Gutierrez. They'll be looking at a more casual side of this card as far as non-commander applications are concerned. So I'm not going to slow roll my preview this time. Let's go ahead, jump right in it. We've got a creature. It is a legendary creature, Hythonia the Cruel. For 2 black, 4 colorless, legendary Gorgon. She's a 4/6 Death Toucher with the ability to become monstrous for just 2 black and 6. The monstrosity is 3, which is going to take her from a 4/6 to a 7/9, which, yes, will put her within 3 attacks of dealing the commander damage of 21. And then also, when she becomes monstrous, destroy all other non-Gorgon creatures. So, I think she's pretty cool, pretty fun. I think it's going to be a fun card to build around. I'm going to be focusing primarily on a more casual, not as cutthroat version of the deck. I could easily make a mono-black control deck with her and just terrorize the tables, but let's go in a couple different directions and see what we get. Starting off, we've got 35 swamps. We're going to have a lot of swamps because we have a very high casting cost as well as monstrosity cost. We need to make sure we hit those land drops constantly. In order to ramp a little bit, we're going to hit Cabal Coffers as well. No Urborg in this deck. We have enough swamps that I don't think we need Urborg. A couple more lands here to ramp is Ancient Tomb and Temple of the False God. We are also rocking a Lake of the Dead. With as many basics as we have in the deck, Terrain Generator is going to be a great advantage. Homeward Path we're throwing in just in case someone decides to get tricky with our creatures. We have a couple of lands that are going to go ahead and take care of other problem lands on our opponent's side of the board, like Ghost Quarter and Tech Edge. Bojuka Bog for wiping out opponents' graveyards, just in case they're trying to do something tricky. We've got a couple creatures that are going to ramp us here as well, in Solemn Simulacrum, as well as Pilgrim's Eye. We're also going to throw in an Expedition map, more than likely searching up Cabal Coffers, Lake of the Dead, or some other land that we need. Some more, I don't want to say mana ramp, but mana doubling in Cage Sun. We have Gilded Lotus in there as well as Soul Ring. And then for a creature, Crypt Ghast, going to go ahead and give us some additional mana boost there as well. Moving on, more mana in Black Market. Whenever a creature dies, put a counter on it and then go ahead and start getting black mana from that, which will be helpful later in the game. Also, Liliana of the Dark Realms as another way to search up lands, and also a semi-removal spell as well. You will probably notice that we have a couple of land tutors, but those are the only tutors we have in the deck, black being very powerful for tutoring, but we want to go ahead and leave those alone because I'd like to go ahead and just draw into my cards naturally and see how the game progresses. So we have a couple of draw spells in the deck with Greed, Phyrexian Arena, and Dusk Urchins. Since Hythonia cares very much about having Gorgons on her side that she's not going to destroy when she pseudo-wraths the board, we have pretty much every mono-black Gorgon in here, including Visara the Dreadful, great just by herself, Gorgon Recluse, and Infernal Medusa, sort of rattlesnake cards, Masked Gorgon, and Xathrid Gorgon. I like Xathrid Gorgon with that activated ability, turning people into stone. I think that's very awesome. We also got a couple of changelings that count as Gorgons in Cairn Wanderer, which is a not half bad creature itself. Ghostly Changeling is going to give us some pump as far as a shade ability. With all that mana we're getting late game, that might be helpful. We also have Moonglove Changeling for some death touch action, and Skeletal Changeling as an early drop that can be very difficult to get rid of if you leave the mana up for regeneration. Now, we are going to be running other non-Gorgon creatures in the deck, so we want to make sure we have Conspiracy in here as well. If we can land that naming Gorgon, we can go ahead and save the rest of our creatures when we go monstrous. We have Massacre Wurm, very good in taking care of the little weenie hordes. Midnight Banshee, since almost all of the creatures in here are black, that's going to be a very good card for us. Necrotic Ooze is also great just for getting random abilities from the graveyards. Reassembling Skeleton, another hard-to-get-rid-of creature that can get down early. And then Onyx Mage is a very fun card. With the ability to pass around Death Touch, it's going to be very Rattlesnake if you leave mana up. People aren't really going to want to attack into your smaller guys because you can trade with their larger creatures. You'll also see shortly a couple ways for us to abuse passing around Death Touch abilities. So Onyx Mage actually a very important card within this deck. Bitter Blossom's also in here as a way to go ahead and throw out little creatures early. I noticed when building this deck that it seemed like there was a shortage of early drops. We need to go ahead and get some more dudes down. Bitter Blossom does that for us. Slightly on theme, we have Gorgon Flail, which is going to go ahead and pass around Death Touch. Now, with all these creatures that do have Death Touch or can get Death Touch with the Onyx Mage or Gorgon Flail, we've got a couple ways to abuse that with Thornbite Staff and Viridian Longbow. These are going to allow us to equip them up and start shooting creatures. So we essentially have multiple Visara the Dreadfuls in this deck. It's especially good with Thornbite Staff because you can pretty much shotgun everything on the table. Not even machine gun, just shotgun it. And kill a dude, untap, kill a dude, untap. Very good. Probably, maybe too good for what I'm looking for, but we'll leave it in there for now. Also, with Death Touch, we can throw in some lure abilities on cards like Nemesis Mask and Grappling Hook. This will go ahead and take care of problem creatures on the other side of the board. Now, I'm not always going to have Hythonia out in order to do the one-sided Wrath, so we want to throw a couple of other one-sided Wraths in there since we want to keep our guys, but make sure our opponent's guys go away. So we have Plague Wind, Overwhelming Forces, Dread Cacodemon, and Dregs of Sorrow. Those are all going to make sure that we keep our guys and our opponents lose their guys. Also, a fun enchantment, Wave of Terror, going to start killing smaller creatures as we pay the cumulative upkeep, and we'll probably let it go before it hits 5 or 6. That way we can save all of our high cast cost creatures and make sure we wipe out all those little weenie hordes that are coming at us. We also have cards like Phthis, which is going to be great for killing a massive creature and doing a lot of damage. Sort of a escape hatch with Oblivion Stone. Setting the Spoil, and you'll notice is actually the only instant within the deck. I wanted to make sure that I play a lot of sorceries and a lot of creatures, let other people play what they want to play, but primarily be a tap-out style of deck. With all those creatures going to the yard with our one-sided Wrath, Rise of the Dark Realms is going to be very good, as well as Grimoire of the Dead. We can pitch extra lands to that, or just creatures that can come back from the yard, like Reassembling Skeleton. Another way to get our opponent's creatures would be Grave Betrayal. And then we have a couple of high casting costs, what I call fun cards, that maybe aren't so fun for your opponents, but should definitely be fun for you. Choice of Damnations. You usually want to cast this on the person with the highest number of permanents or the highest life, but usually the highest number of permanents, and let them decide how much they want to lose. We also have Painful Quandary, which is very difficult to deal with if you don't have any kind of enchantment destroying. Cabal Conditioning. It's not going to go ahead and take care of a lot of cards, so if we only have maybe a 4 or 5 cast creature on the board, that's okay, because by the time we drop this at 7 mana, your opponent may not have more than 4 or 5 cards in their hands if you're lucky. Codex Shredder is one of my brother's favorite spells. That's going to go ahead and take care of a lot of top-of-deck tutors. If you have a lot of that in your meta, that'll go ahead and get rid of them. And also, it's a colorless way to go ahead and get something back from the yard to regrowth, which is very important. We also have Endless Whispers because when we kill all of our opponent's creatures, why not take them right then and right there and keep passing them across the table? That's going to be fun. Forsaken Waste stops a lot of the crazy life gain decks from going too wild, and also that incremental life loss might help us in the long run. Koskun Falls is an oldie, sort of a black propaganda. You have to tap down a creature during your upkeep, but usually that shouldn't be too hard with Bitter Blossom tokens or Reassembling Skeleton dropping early. We also have Army of the Damned. That is a great way to put a bunch of dudes out and then hopefully swing for the game late. Plague of Vermin, another way to get a bunch of creatures out. Hopefully your opponent will pay more life than you'll pay. Then you go ahead and go Monstrous, destroy all their rats, and then start beating in. We also have Polluted Bonds. That's sort of going to stop those ramp decks from maybe going too hard. And finally, Repay in Kind. If we lose a lot of life early, or if another opponent loses a lot of life and we're in a good position, we can go ahead and play this card, put everyone down on equal footing, and then hopefully just start beating in with our Gorgons. So there it is, a deck built around the new card coming out in Theros, Hythonia the Cruel. Thanks for watching CMDR Decks, and please don't forget to subscribe and favorite.